Good evening. I'm Sheriff Dominic D'Agostino, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Schenectady County Sheriff's Office Criminal Justice Reform and Collaborative Meeting. This meeting is the first of two scheduled meetings where we will be discussing the Governor's Executive Order 203 as it relates to criminal justice reform within the Schenectady County Sheriff's Office and the communities it serves. Tonight, we have put together a PowerPoint presentation that speaks to Executive Order 203. After the PowerPoint, we will open the meeting to questions and comments. It is important to note that prior to the Governor's executive order, many of the initiatives and directives contained therein have been established as practices within this office, and we are committed to building upon those practices as we navigate through this process. I'd like to give a brief overview of the Sheriff's Law Enforcement Division, which we have built upon over the last 12 years. We currently have a 12-person road patrol that is primarily responsible for patrolling the western part of the county, namely Princetown and Duanesburg. We also have a narcotics unit and a street crimes task force consisting of members of the District Attorney's Office, the City Police Department, Social Services, the Rotterdam Police Department, and the Sheriff's Office. Additionally, we have a K-9 unit consisting of 5 K-9s and a program administrator. We also have a Marine Patrol unit consisting of 4 deputies certified to conduct patrol operations on the Mohawk River. Lastly, we also operate a variety of different programs that serve the county community, and these will be discussed in the PowerPoint. So without further delay, I would like to turn the program over to Lieutenant Michael Gerasi, who will present the PowerPoint. Michael.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you all for being here. Today's agenda, we will deliver the presentation. At the completion of the presentation, questions that were received in writing will be answered first, and then stakeholders will have an opportunity to speak. As a law enforcement agency, we are responsible for criminal justice reform. As a result of today's meeting and subsequent meetings, there will be action items that will be developed. An individual will be identified as the primary person to follow it through. Everybody will have an opportunity to be heard. All opinions matter, and please be considerate of everyone's time. We will have a focused conversation today on a primary topic. While there are many other services offered by the Sheriff's Office, for today's purpose, our priority focus is the Patrol Operations Division. And the implementation is the final plan of our work here. You're looking at the Schenectady County Sheriff's Office Patrol Division chain of command. We have a very diverse workforce. As the Sheriff just spoke to you, we have the Sheriff who's at the top, Sheriff Dominic D'Agostino, Under Sheriff James Barrett, Chief Deputy John Lubrandt, and then we have a Patrol Lieutenant who oversees several units. We have a civil unit with a deputy, uniformed deputy, who is a civil enforcement officer. Within that unit, there's 3 civilian staff. In the Patrol Division, we have 2 sergeants, 12 road patrol deputies, and 2 school resource officers, 1 assigned to the Schenectady County Community College and 1 assigned to the Duanesburg Central School District. We have a Special Operations Division, and within that division, we have the Marine Patrol, which has certified Marine operators that patrol the waterways of Schenectady County. And as the Sheriff spoke, we have Narcotics Unit, Street Crimes Unit, the K-9 Unit, and our Stop DWI program. We have a diverse group of stakeholders with us today. I'd like to introduce everybody. First, the Sheriff's team, Sheriff Dominic D'Agostino, Under Sheriff Barrett, Chief Deputy John Lubrandt, Unified Communications Center, Director Kevin Spahn, Superintendent Ronald Walsh, Deputy Superintendent Jack Purdy, Inspector Christopher Foster, Inspector Peter Forth, Inspector Jeffrey Sauter, K-9 Director Jeffrey Calder, and Special Officer David Leffingwell. For our stakeholders, we have Schenectady County District Attorney Robert Carney, Schenectady County Public Defender Stephen Signor, Youth Life Support President and CEO Jamel Mohammed, Schenectady County Department of Social Services Director Paul Brady, Northern Rivers Mobile Crisis Services Executive Program Director Jennifer Eslick, Reformed Presbyterian Church of Duanesburg Pastor Kenneth McHurd, Town of Princetown Supervisor Louis Esposito, Town of Duanesburg Supervisor Roger Tidball, Village of Delanson Mayor Gail Gifford, Schenectady County Manager Rory Fluman, Schenectady County Legislature Chairman Anthony Jasinski, Schenectady County Legislator Kathy Gatta, Schenectady County Legislator Richard Russo, Schenectady County Attorney Christopher Gardner, Marva Isaacs of the Hamilton Hill Neighborhood Association, Alyssa Craig, owner of Vintage 20 Wine in Duanesburg, William Park, owner of the Adirondack Combustion Technologies Incorporated, which is in Duanesburg, Chris and Dennis Wolf, owners of Wolf's Market in Delanson, Jack White, owner of White's RV Specialist in Princetown, Anthony Gerasi, New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services Master Trainer of Principal Policing and retired police chief, Thomas Collins from the Mariahville Civic Association, and lastly, Duanesburg School District Superintendent James Niedermeyer. Thank you all to the stakeholders for your time and commitment today. Why are we here? Executive Order 203. On June 12, 2020, Governor Cuomo signed an executive order requiring each local government in the state to adopt a policing reform plan by April 1st, 2021. To ensure these plans are developed through an inclusive process, Governor Cuomo called for New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. To rebuild the police-community relationship, each local government must convene stakeholders for a fact-based and honest dialogue about the public safety needs of their community. Each community must envision for itself the appropriate role of the police. Policies must be developed to allow the police to do their jobs, to protect the public, and these policies must be met with local communities' acceptance. Collaborative is the key word. I just read a portion of the governor's executive order. We intend to put this mandate in place, and it starts with the collaborative process. Reviewing the needs of the community, establish policies, involve the entire community in the discussion, and from that discussion, develop policy recommendations resulting from this review, offer a plan for public comment, present this plan to our legislative body to either ratify or adopt, and certify adoption of the plan on or before April 1st, 2021. Our mission statement: the mission of the Schenectady County Sheriff's Office shall be the protection and preservation of the rights, lives, and properties of all persons through a fair and impartial enforcement of law. Regardless of such person's race, creed, color, ethnicity, or social standing, the department will operate with total transparency, receptive to the voices of the community and our officers. Throughout today's presentation, we will be addressing the following: use of force by police officers, crowd management, community policing, implicit bias training, procedural justice, and within that, addressing the systemic and racial bias and racial injustices in policing, and de-escalation training. We also must address law enforcement assisted diversion programs, community-based outreach, violence prevention and reduction interventions, focused deterrence, crime prevention through environmental design, also known as CEPTED, model policies, the accreditation program, and a transparent citizen complaint disposition procedure. Several of our stakeholders will discuss these topics. One of the elements that must be addressed in the plan is the use of force by police officers. Use of force continuum, which you're looking at, is a standard that provides law enforcement and civilians with guidelines as to how much force may be used against a resisting subject in a given situation. As you can see, it is progressive in nature. In the most basic form, a way to think about the concept are that officers' responses are most likely the reactions of the subject's actions. When our deputies use force against a subject, they self-report by documenting the force immediately and notifying a supervisor. The amount of force that is used by our deputies shall be the amount of force that is reasonable under the circumstances for the deputy involved to effect a lawful arrest, prevent escape, or in defense of oneself or another. We've attached our revised and updated use of force policy to our webpage at SchenectadySheriff.com. This policy meets the Division of Criminal Justice Services Accreditation program. The next element is crowd management that we must address. Crowd management is the organized and substantiated planning and direction to the orderly progress of events where large groups gather together. In other words, it's crowd control. There are strong emotions such as joy, anger, and excitement that can quickly spread and become dangerous. We just recently completed training, and some of those topics included knowing your crowd, plan in advance, inform your local partners, identify potential dangers, have an emergency plan, and use signage. People need to know where they have to go and where not to go. Community policing. This is the fun part of our job. Community policing are buzzwords that mean many things to the public. Community policing to the Schenectady Sheriff's Office includes, but not limited to, what you see on this slide. These are a sampling of the services we provide in an effort to bring us closer to the community we serve. For the amount of deputies that we have, we are very much involved in the community. I would like to speak to just a few programs and services that we have. We have community bike rodeos, where we'll host a pop-up bike rodeo. We set up an obstacle course for the children. We give away bicycles and bike helmets. We make sure that the helmets fit the children properly. We also give away bicycle locks, reflectors, and we help the kids learn how to ride a new bicycle. This is a positive image for our youth to see police officers in a different light. Project Lifesaver is another program that we offer. It is a search and rescue program designed for at-risk individuals who are prone to the life-threatening behavior of wandering. We have approximately 30 clients enrolled in the program, and those enrolled in the program wear a bracelet, as you can see on the screen. It contains a battery-operated transmitter, which emits a locating signal. If the client wanders away, the caregiver is to call 911, and the Schenectady Sheriff's Office is notified immediately. The program is free, and please visit our website at SchenectadySheriff.com. Another program that the sheriffs are very heavily involved with is the Safe Child ID. Safe Child ID, we assist families with a free wallet-sized ID card containing the child's name and biological information. Also a photo and a fingerprint image of the index fingers. The card is created in under 2 minutes. Parents can choose to store the fingerprints, photo, and basic biological information in a state database. God forbid the child goes lost or is missing. Once again, please visit us at our website for more information. One of the best programs we're involved in throughout the years, the holiday community events. And in the last 2 years, we really took a proactive approach to have our personnel involved in the community. Just a couple things to highlight. Thanksgiving time, we partner with several local organizations and our law enforcement partners, in Schenectady County to deliver food to the less fortunate. And you want to talk about a humbling experience. That for certain is one. Christmas time, we sponsor families. We purchase toys for children and also give food to those families in need. We partner with Toys for Tots throughout the year. And most recently in December, we partnered and collaborated with Toys for Tots to give out over 500 toys to each child in the Duanesburg Central School District. Very humbling for our deputies and gratifying service to our community. Prescription drug take-back program. We have a drop box located inside our correctional facility in the main lobby area. Individuals can drop off and dispose unwanted medications, including controlled substances. And most importantly, no questions asked. The purpose is to help rid our community of unwanted medications that may otherwise be abused or contaminate our water supply. And once again, I just want to reiterate, for all of these programs we're in, please visit us at our website, SchenectadySheriff.com, for more information on these wonderful community programs. Empowering our deputies. We empower our deputies with knowledge and training, enable them to make the best decisions when interacting with the community. On an annual basis, some of our training includes de-escalation training, which we recently completed with reality-based training and trained 100% of our patrol division. We gave deputies the knowledge of resolution methods for potentially violent situations and techniques to diffuse those situations without violence. And what it's all about is just humanizing our deputies to have the skills to connect with a member of the community in crisis. Other training that we've completed, procedural justice, which focuses on the way we interact with the community. And here to speak further on this topic is retired Police Chief Anthony Gerasi. Chief.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. So procedural justice is part of a larger strategy, as you see here, titled principal policing. Well, principal policing includes procedural justice, implicit bias, and reconciliation. But procedural justice in and of itself should be viewed as more than just a strategy or a program or an initiative. It's really about the way of doing business. And if I had to simply define this, it's really just treating people fairly with respect and dignity as a human being. And I can tell you that the Schenectady Sheriff's Office and his staff are light years ahead of many agencies in the state. They really have embraced this idea and conduct themselves in such a fashion. When you look at the terms there on the poster, voice, neutrality, respect, and trustworthiness, I'm going to take a moment and kind of define each one. And then I'll give you an example of, broad brush macro level versus a narrow scoped view of this. So giving someone a voice is really listening to them, making them part of the process. And regardless if it's a negative outcome or a positive outcome, it really relies on how people are treated and whether or not they have a voice. Neutrality is important, right? The two inhibitors to attaining procedural justice is implicit bias and threat to authority. So, and we're going to discuss that a little further in a moment. So it's important that we remain neutral. It's not only based on race, it's socioeconomic status, gender, occupational positions. So it's not strictly race. It could also be a bias on, I've dealt with this person 15 occasions, so I go into it with my mind made up. Respect is really just treatment of others, that process that I talked about. And then trustworthiness, which is really about a fair and transparent process. They're taking a moment to explain why you're doing what you're doing. So a lot of agencies across the state make the mistake of just treating this as a training module, and they deliver to their membership, and then they kind of put it aside. I can say that it's the starting point to get your membership aware of what's expected, And the Schenectady County Sheriff's Department did this well before the reform or any mandates. So I applaud them for that. So looking at some of the things that they've done to show and prove that they've embraced this idea of procedural justice, it's more than just if a police officer or a deputy encounters someone on a traffic stop or on the street. It's really big picture stuff. So in a moment, someone's going to talk about the Crane Street model. So you look at a situation where there's a problem that exists in the community, and instead of the police, and in this case, the Schenectady County Sheriffs and their partners in the city police department, instead of them deciding what's best for the community, they give them a voice, right? So they gave the community and the business community a voice along Crane Street, and they realized that there was issues and conditions that needed to be addressed. So they were deployed to the area for, I believe, 7 months. And when it came to conduct enforcement, it really comes to the lawfulness and the legitimacy of these actions. And because they were requested by the community and they gave them a voice and they listened, we can strongly point their purpose there of conducting enforcement activities was neutral, free of bias. And during that deployment, over those 7 months, I can assure you that the treatment of those who were encountered were dealt with respect. And the trustworthiness of that detail and that deployment of resources really comes in the fact that when those officers were in that neighborhood, they went door to door and spoke to neighbors and explained why they were there. They just didn't occupy a neighborhood that so many police departments in the past have wrongly done. So like I said, it's more important about the process than the outcome. Now, the outcome, I understand, had extreme positive results and impact, reduction in crime and reduction in gun violence. And in the past, police officers, it's easy to become cynical and see an entire neighborhood as one thing or one being. And it's important, and we talk about it at length when we talk about procedural justice, that it's a very small percentage of people that are driving violence in the community. 94 to 97% of people are law-abiding citizens and people that want police present, that want positive interactions with the police. So it's important that the officers, when they are deployed to these areas, and they prove this, that to keep in mind, 3 to 6% are those who are causing problems, and it's even smaller percent that's driving the violence, and an even smaller percentage possibly involved in gun violence. And so the idea is that you're there to support the community and co-produce public safety. The ultimate goal of incorporating procedural justice in the way of doing business is really the goal of attaining legitimacy. You want the public to view us as being legitimate, as being lawful, and there for the right reasons, and really building those trusting relationships. So you don't have to look too far than a couple of slides ago to see, is this truly embraced and institutionalized in the Schenectady Sheriff's Office? And it is. The mission statement, if you go back, you can see these 4 principles are strongly present in the mission statement. It's a message to the community and to the membership of what's expected, and that they are truly there to serve the community, to build trusting relationships, and to do so free of bias in a neutral manner. When it comes to the training, like I said, the Schenectady County Sheriff's Office trained this well before any mandates. Part of that training, there's 6 modules, and one of the modules obviously discusses these principles at length, but it's also important they discuss officer safety and wellness, because if officers and deputies are not mentally, emotionally, and physically sound, it's going to affect the service that's provided in the community. So we discuss and have really courageous conversations surrounding officer safety and wellness. But another really important discussion that takes place during these trainings and even in community settings is courageous conversations surrounding the past harms that have been committed at the hands of law enforcement. It's no surprise, it's no secret that we were on the wrong side of history. It was synonymous with some of the atrocities. You can follow it from the beginning of our country through the civil rights movements and even in recent times. So we have those discussions, and we realize that some of these things are not our fault, but they are definitely our problem. And we encourage everyone to acknowledge past harms, right? Those officers, it's not hard to acknowledge the harms and see the atrocities that we've committed. and then be committed to a different future in our actions. So that sums up what procedural justice is on a macro level, if it's institutionalized. On a micro level, it's simply just a police citizen encounter where you are, incorporate these principles. You're giving people a chance to listen to them, be part of the process, be fair and neutral, overall respect, and be trustworthy in your delivery of services. So I don't know, Lieutenant Gerasi, if there's anything that I missed or you want me to expand upon, but that's kind of a really Cliff Notes version of principal policing.
No, thank you very much. And I just want to highlight the poster on your screen is actually a sign that we have at our patrol substation that our officers see every day when they come to work and every day when they leave. So not only model this policy and principles during work, but when you go home to your families. So thank you, Chief. We are very fortunate to have you with your vast knowledge and expertise in this critical area. And yes, this is my twin brother. And yes, I got all the looks. The chief is actually in New York City teaching this course right now. So thank you for your time being with us tonight, Chief.
Absolutely. I'll remain on if there's any questions, all right, if I can clarify anything.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, thank you. So some reform meetings that we've partnered and collaborated and we had a seat as a stakeholder: City of Schenectady PD, Town of Rotterdam PD, and the Town of Niskayuna PD. We've attended monthly meetings for the last 2 years in the area we patrol. We are actively engaged with the town and village boards and the community. We've also attended several neighborhood meetings in the City of Schenectady when we were requested through our outreach programs and the community. And the most important part of this is the purpose to give the community a voice for any related concerns. We are honored to have with us one of our stakeholders, the President and CEO of Youth Life Support Network, Jamel Mohammed. Jamel?
Thank you, Lieutenant Gerasi. Uh-oh, too far back. Where's my slides at? And I want to thank the Sheriff D'Agostino and his administration for giving me a chance to be a part of this community event tonight. Just to give a big, at least opening to what the organization is about first and foremost. It's one thing to speak about community partners. It's another thing to understand who the community partners are to give true legitimacy to what we're talking. Youth Life Support Network is a community-based organization with a focus on public safety. Was created in 2012, and it was created really as a response to the gun violence amongst the youth in the community in the Capital District. The objective was to give a vehicle and a platform for the youth in our community to be able to speak to the concerns and have the ability to come with solutions at the table to be part of the process as opposed to just being seen as part of the problem. So the program that we run over in Schenectady, that we operate here under the Sheriff's Office, is a program called One Life to Live. And the big part of this program is who the people are that run the program or who the employees are. And with this program, this is one of the only programs, as the sheriff would always say, where the person with the worst resume has the best chance at the job. And that's because we take the individuals who have come off the streets and out of the gang environment, a gang element, the former drug dealers, and we give them a chance to be a part of the process to deal with the gun violence in the community. So we take what we call credible messengers, those who have lived the experiences, and we give them a chance at the table to be a part of the solution. This is a program that is not new to the area. It's not new to anything that we've created on our own. It was a program that came out of the SNUG program that I originally was a part of in Albany. And in 2014, West Holloway invited me to the table to meet with at the time, Chief Chairs and the Sheriff D'Agostino, and we had a conversation about what we can do about the gun violence here. They had initially started a program or initiative with the gun buyback, and they saw some success with that, but it wasn't what the sheriff or the chief had desired, because it seems that most of the weapons that were being turned in were not necessarily the street weapons, but weapons that didn't really impact the street violence. So with this came the conversation, as I said, to have Youth Life Support Network come into Schenectady and offer what we can do as a partnership to law enforcement, criminal justice. As we moved forward with the idea, we were able to get some funding initially with the Schenectady Foundation, but since then, a lot of our support, I have to recognize and appreciate, has come from the county legislature, that Sheriff D'Agostino has been able to help us to secure, which is the bulk of our funding for the program. And as a result, our services are not just for the city of Schenectady, but for the county of Schenectady. And we're there for anyone's use and disposal. One of the things, or a couple of things I want to highlight about the program, aside from the fact that we take individuals who were once part of the problem and let them be part of the solution, how this works and how it functions, we have a hospital response team, which I think is one of the most important parts, because this is where the seat of emotion is at when there's an injury by gun violence. This is where you have the people that are hurt the worst by the injury, looking for the ability to respond or retaliate. So we have a team that shows up at the hospital to connect with the family, connect with the victim, and to connect with the associates of the victim to make sure that we can contain, de-escalate, and mediate the situation before it spirals out of control and begin retaliations. We also respond to the community, to the site of where the incident took place at. And at that time, we interact with the community, to get information on understanding what happened, why it happened, and what we can do as a community as a whole to work to resolve it before it continues to go out of control. A big part of what helps us to contain the situations in the community in partnership with the criminal justice and law enforcement partners is these outreach workers or violence interrupters, which is how we identify the staff. They're responsible for taking on at least 9 to 12 as a caseload of those who are at the highest risk of either shooting or getting shot. So in other words, these individuals, which we have a team that consists of 3 outreach worker violence interrupters right now. So in essence, they can case manage up to 27 to 45 individuals who are at the highest likelihood of shooting or getting shot. Now, some may, question whether or not we're effective, how we can prove we're effective. And the best thing that we can give is that, your retaliations are down. You look at other connecting counties and the cities and what their numbers are. And, we have the same population that's transit between the cities. And, there's something that we're doing different and something that we're doing right. And a big part of it that I say is the leadership of the sheriff's office with this outreach program and component that allows us to collaborate with the law enforcement, PD, sheriff's office, district attorney's office, without having to be a tool of law enforcement or criminal justice. And what I mean by that is, though we work as close as we do with the law enforcement, the sheriff's office, there's a clear line of respect, mutual respect, that understands that our job is to prevent the retaliations, not to solve crimes or close cases. And with that relationship, there's no cross relay of information. In other words, there's no information they expect from us. They only look for us to help prevent the next retaliation. So that's a big part of how we keep the community credibility and how our team is able to effectively go out and mediate these conflicts and contain these conflicts. And we were able to, champion and boast pre-pandemic. I believe we went 2 years with this collaboration partnership with 0 street homicides in the city of Schenectady. So this is something, again, that speaks to the leadership of the Schenectady Sheriff's Office. Another program that Youth Life Support Network has under its operation, under the Sheriff's Office, is a true reentry program. You hear reentry all the time. You hear people talk about reentry programs, state, local, federal. But again, just as Chief Gerasi mentioned, Schenectady is leading the way, I can say, as far as what real reentry looks like. Under the sheriff's permission and under the sheriff's office, working with the corrections division with Superintendent Walsh, we were able to put a reentry program under the house of the MA Services Department. The MA Services Office is already responsible for making sure that the inmates housed at the county jail are supported with the services that they need, that the family contacts are made for those who may have had broken. Sometimes individuals are arrested in the middle of the night, or in the daytime. A lot of people depend on their phones for their contact information. So they come in the facility and they don't have access to their phones right away. So they don't have access or ability to reach out to their family. Time goes on, and as we walk through the facility, myself and my reintegration specialists, if you want to say, once we get out into the population, we start finding out what their needs are, and we make sure that they're comfortable, not so much to be in jail, but at least this is one stressor that they have to worry about. And this also comes off, the benefit comes with having a street program, because these are some of the same individuals we come in contact with. One of the things that I'm sitting here thinking about as I'm putting my thoughts together with this, there was a shooting victim a couple months ago that we responded to the hospital and that I met at the hospital. And if I fast forward over this weekend, as I walked through the jail, I saw the individual on one of the tiers. And he was one of the individuals who didn't have contact with his family and his loved ones. So he gave me an address to go and make contact for him. And I went out, I went to the house, I made contact with the individual's family, came back and relayed the message. And it was, coincidental that he was also getting ready to make bail. And while he was telling me he was making bail, he asked for my contact information. He said, I remember the conversation we had at the hospital, and I'm going to reach out to you because one thing you said that I'm ready for, which is a change. Things got to be different. So this is where this whole thing comes together, from the street outreach all the way into the jail. But the reentry program, the reintegration transition program, we have our discharge coordinator who meets with every person that's sentenced and going to be released back to Schenectady County Jail or Schenectady County community. And that person takes the time to see what their needs are, to make sure that they got everything lined up for when they're released. And this is to make sure that we can do what we can to support them not coming back. Though this is a new program as part of the jail's portfolio, if you will, is not something that we just came up with. This is something that had been in conversation with the undersheriff, Barrett, the Sheriff D'Agostino, and myself for almost 3 years prior to this opportunity coming to the table. So it's not something that we just suddenly came on the heels of. And I've mentioned it in that way because of the fact that, as the sheriff said in his opening, a lot of things that the governor's mandate in this executive order speaks to, Schenectady Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office has been doing and ahead of the curve, long before any of the protests in the community or any of the executive orders really dictated. So I just wanted to recognize that this is something not new, but something that we have been in conversation for 3 years prior to this coming up. The discharge coordinator, as I said, prepares them for going out with a service plan. Then we have a community component, which is where we bring the transition coaches and coordinators to the table to meet with these individuals prior to them going out to make sure that that plan is secure. Because even though we may meet with them maybe 4, 5, 6 months before they go out, things may change in the meantime. So we want to make sure that the housing is still secure, that the employment is still secure, and that they have all of the identification that they would need. We make sure that they have appointments lined up, whether it's for social services, whether it's for mental health, whether it's for substance programs or whatever. So the whole idea is to make sure that we put in all of the support that we can behind and underneath the inmates as they transition back to the community. The next and final initiative that I'll speak to that we're in the process of developing, which is new to me and new to Schenectady's landscape, though it's not a new program in the region, is the LEAD initiative. And LEAD is an acronym for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. And LEAD is a new harm reduction oriented process for responding to low-level drug, alcohol, and mental illness-based offenses. LEAD gives police officers the discretion to divert these offenses out of the criminal justice system for case management. The program is designed to be a multi-agency partnership between the county, the district attorney, the sheriff, the mayor, the police department, Center for Community Justice, the Business Improvement District, and Youth Life Support Network. Just going back to make sure we understand what this is saying, this is giving the law enforcement, the sheriff's office, a tool that they can use instead of sending individuals directly to the jail and processing them through the court system. It gives them the ability to take individuals who have these low-level offenses and divert them to programs, to services, as opposed to incarceration. We know that incarceration, as many law enforcement leaderships already are beginning to understand or maybe been understood, but beginning to admit that you can't arrest yourself out of the situation. So simply just charging everybody they come in contact with is not going to solve the problems that we have in the community. So this is another tool that law enforcement in the county of Schenectady will have at its disposal based on the sheriff's office taking the lead with this program and having it set up, and used. It's something that we're still in the process of developing as an infrastructure. It's something that we do intend within the next couple of months to start putting the different layers in place. And it'll take several months because it is a huge program for us to actually get it into full implementation. But the main thing we want to make sure we understand is that the sheriff's office is definitely, I have to underscore, when it comes to community engagement and community outreach, it did not take protests throughout the country for Sheriff D'Agostino to decide he wants to be a part of the community. One of the things that he points out with all of the programs that Youth Life Support Network is responsible for, these are typically city issues. These are not county issues, but this shows that he thinks of the county as his responsibility, not just some territory or some geographical location. So again, I'm honored as a person formerly incarcerated. Never would have thought that I would have an opportunity to be in a collaboration like this in support of the services. But I just want to make sure that we do recognize and understand that the sheriff's office in Schenectady is not new to community outreach. This is something that he's done from the time that I know him, almost 9 years now. And with that, I'll give it back to Lieutenant Gerasi.
Jamel, thank you for all that you do for our community. We are very fortunate to have you as a highly valued partner and stakeholder. So thank you once again. Excellent job. Problem-oriented policing. I would like to now introduce Chief Lubrandt, who will provide an overview of the problem-oriented policing. Chief Lubrandt.
Thank you, Lieutenant Gerasi. The next slide on problem-oriented policing features bullet points which identify some evidence-based policing strategies, as well as the GIVE program that the Sheriff's Office participates in. Problem-oriented policing involves informed decision-making through data-driven practices. This process includes the acronym SARA, which stands for Scanning, Analysis, response, and assessment. Through collaboration with the data collection and analysis process, a jurisdiction-wide analysis, a place-based analysis, and a people-based analysis is obtained to determine what tactics and strategies work best to fight crime. These strategies come into play with our daily operations, as well as with our participation as a GIVE program partner in Schenectady County. Moving on to the next data point, our approach to traffic enforcement has changed in the sense that our emphasis is with educating the public rather than just issuing summons. There are no quotas that are in effect at this agency. And our emphasis, again here, is on a data-driven approach by viewing crash data, speed surveys, citizen-based complaints, and those help to identify and serve to determine how we can best deploy our resources in the community to address traffic enforcement issues. One emphasis that remains consistent, again, is, and because of its severe impact with individuals and society, is our emphasis on impaired driving enforcement, and that's a longstanding priority which will remain in place. Moving on to focused deterrence. Well, focused deterrence is also known as pulling levers policing. It's a crime reduction strategy which aims to deter crime by increasing the swiftness, severity, and certainty of punishment for crimes by implementing a mix of law enforcement, social services, and community mobilizations. Under this model, law enforcement selects specific crime problems such as gun violence and conducts research to identify key offenders using unbiased and data-driven processes, and engages with them directly in strategic communication with these group members through call-ins or custom notifications. An emphasis is on individuals with federal and state probationers or parolees that have a history of gun possession and firearms violence, and a potential propensity to become involved with that activity again. Law enforcement community members and social service providers will come together to deliver the message that violence will no longer be tolerated, and if violence does occur, every available legal lever will be pulled to bring an immediate and certain response. This hard message, usually delivered by police and prosecutors, is also accompanied by a soft message that emphasizes the community's willingness to help individuals change and the availability of services, whether it's in the form of job training, drug treatment, and for those individuals that are interested in engaging and changing their lives in a more pro-social behavior manner. The other thing with this message when this process occurs is these individuals also hear the message that law enforcement leaders are more interested in deterring gun violence rather than arresting and prosecuting offenders. Moving on to the GIVE program, or the Gun Involved Violence Elimination Program. The Sheriff's Office has been involved as a partner in GIVE since 2014. This is a program that is conducted in 17 counties throughout the state. And the structure of these programs falls in the way of the police department, the district attorney, the probation office, and the sheriff's office. So here in Schenectady County, we have Schenectady PD, District Attorney Robert Carney's office, the probation department, and of course the sheriff's office. The GIVE partners collectively use evidence and database methods to prevent and reduce gun violence in Schenectady County. Two of our primary roles as partners in the GIVE program are the Street Outreach Worker Program, which Jamel Mohammed spoke to very eloquently, and it is a key, I can't emphasize that enough, that is a key component of the GIVE program and enhancing our abilities to reduce gun violence that has such a catastrophic effect on our citizens and in the county. The second part of our direct involvement in GIVE involves having a sheriff's office member assigned as a gang intelligence officer. And that member will interact with the GIVE enforcement partners and also assist in compiling a jail intelligence unit report on a monthly basis. That's also shared with all of the GIVE partners that work cases and are boots on the street in investigating gun violence. It consists of gang and gun-related information, and when it's completed on a monthly basis, it is an actionable product that is of great benefit to investigators who are working cases on the street. On the next bullet point, with crime prevention through environmental design, CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design examines how environmental features create opportunities for crime and how those features can be adjusted to eliminate those opportunities. Adjustments can be implemented to control or make access more difficult, deter offenders by increasing the risk of apprehension, and increase visibility, increase or encourage guardianship, whether it be a residential or a business location, and to regulate or adjust behaviors or routines with individuals in a neighborhood that has a hotspot identification for a large or disproportionate number of reported crimes. Some examples of environmental features that can create opportunities for crime include trees and shrubbery that block visibility, a lack of lighting, traffic direction, or lack of signaling, abandoned buildings, alleyways, or cuts in between buildings, and empty lots hidden from the street. Adjustments that address these features may include cutting down shrubs to increase visibility, adding lighting to a dark alley, boarding up abandoned homes, or improving traffic conditions by adding signage, signals, and speed bumps. Often, the city's code department supports this process and plays a key role in the CPTED concept. Moving on to DDACS, which is data-driven approaches to crime and traffic safety. Data-driven approaches to crime and traffic safety, also known as DDACS, is an operational model that uses the analysis of location-based crash, crime, calls for service, and enforcement data to establish effective and efficient methods for deploying resources geared toward gun violence elimination. Data analysts that work within the agencies in the county help identify long-term high crime locations and repeat offenders that are in that area. And they work this data into what is called hotspot locations. And that is utilized to determine the deployment of resources. And going toward this concept too, as it mentions traffic safety. One of the concepts with DDACS and traffic safety is research and data analysis has shown that there's a correlation between shootings and traffic enforcement. It's apparent as many shootings utilize vehicles to transport shooters to and from crime scenes. People are deterred from committing gun crimes in places that are more intensively patrolled by uniformed officers. With that, after the process of collecting and analyzing data, one of the enforcement strategies under DDACS is to conduct hotspot micro-level enforcement operations, which you'll hear more about in one of the next slides, which relates toward a hotspot that was identified on Crane Street, in particularly Crane and 6th Avenue. But under the GIVE program and Schenectady's initiative included a multifaceted approach to include a wide range of participating units, an intelligence collection phase, an intelligence confirmation phase, a narcotics initiative, an enforcement phase, and plans for sustainment after the operation is concluded. With that, I'll turn the program back over to Lieutenant Gerasi.
Great. Thank you, Chief. So just as the Chief spoke about Crane Street and the Crane Street model, we were asked to help and collaborate with the City of Schenectady Police Department by the Crane Street Business Association. And with that, it was a community policing effort, but it was much more focused. We like to say neighborhood policing effort. We collaborated with the Street Crimes Task Force, New York State Police, City of Schenectady PD, Parole, and Probation. And our deputies had high visibility. We conducted traffic enforcement. We had deputies on foot with our canines. And we really interacted with the community. Some of the best parts of this detail for the sheriff's office, it was 7 months long, we were able to engage the youth. We handed out hundreds of bicycle helmets, hundreds of free ice cream cards. Some of the kids would hit us up weekly 2-3 times each. We also played basketball with the kids at the local playgrounds. And there's some really good basketball players out there. Thankfully, Sheriff, none of our guys got hurt, but they were embarrassed for sure. The outcome was positive, community engagement. It really taught our deputies how to be police officers in an urban community and really focused and use the principal policing principles. So before and after and during this entire detail, our outreach programs offered by One Life to Live were very active. So thank you to Jamel again. Continuing on with the problem-oriented policing, we've collaborated with social services in the community. We recently partnered with Northern Rivers and the Unified Communication Center, which is also the 911 call center. Implementation of policies and procedures for handling emotionally disturbed persons, also known as the new policy, the EDP diversion policy. And now I'd like to introduce UCC Director Kevin Spahn, who will discuss the EDP diversion program. Kevin?
Thanks, Lieutenant. So the EDP diversion program, it stands for Emotionally Disturbed Persons Diversion. So in participating in other conversations for the police reform and community conversations that have been going on with other agencies, we started talking about how we were responding to and helping callers who are in an emotionally disturbed state. Not everyone calling 911 may need a police officer response. Some of our callers, in layman's terms, I guess is the way to say it, they're just having a bad day. They need someone to talk to, someone to help work through that issue that they're dealing with at that moment. Prior to these conversations that we started talking about this, 911 dispatchers had one way to handle this call. We take as much information as possible and we send police. We did this because that was the only tool in the toolbox. That's the only way that we could handle the call. In other parts of the country and even other parts of the state, there's procedures and plans in place that allow 911 dispatchers an opportunity to send specific callers that meet a specific criteria to a civilian counselor instead of sending police officers. We took a look at these models. We came up with our own based off of their procedures and their models, and in cooperation with Northern Rivers, we created a procedure that as of last week in Schenectady County, if you call 911, you meet a specific criteria, you're willing, you could be transferred to Northern Rivers to work through whatever issue you may be having at that moment. Now, this doesn't apply to everyone. It's like I said from the beginning, it's for that caller that's having that bad day. So the callers that these guidelines are in no immediate danger. They're no harm to themselves at that very moment. They offer no immediate threat to another person. Those callers are the ones we're being able to transfer to Northern River staff. We're hoping that they're able to work through that moment with a trained professional. The callers that have a weapon or indicate the possibility of doing immediate harm, we'll continue to send law enforcement as we always have to mitigate the situation at that time. The new procedure, though, allows the elimination of sending a police officer. It frees those officers up to respond to other emergencies. We're now getting callers the right help without the possibility of the situation escalating with a face-to-face meeting, which has happened. This will always be about getting the right help to the people at the right time. That's why the procedure was put in place. We hope to grow this procedure. We hope that in the future, we'll continue to see more callers be able to send in this direction with our partnership with Jennifer and her team at Northern Rivers. Jennifer's going to speak next on what her team is doing for the community. So, Lieutenant, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Director, for all that you do. And we extend special thanks to all the dispatchers that man the 911 call center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in the majority of cases, they are the first person that someone in need talks to. And we thank you. We have a very good relationship with your agency and your unit. Now I'd like to introduce Jennifer Eslick, the Executive Program Director of Northern Rivers. Jennifer? Might have technical difficulty on her end. Let me give her a call real quick. Very important that she speaks.
There she is.
It would help if I turned my microphone on.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. So what I will start with is thank you for letting me speak tonight. I think it's a really important collaborative that we've started in Schenectady County. I want to talk a little bit about our services in general to give everybody an idea of what our mobile crisis services through Northern Rivers offers to the communities, and then really want to speak about the hard work we've done in Schenectady with law enforcement and definitely with Kevin's team. I've been very fortunate to work really, really closely with all different levels of law enforcement in all of our counties, but definitely in Schenectady County in the last year. And I've had opportunities to work really closely with Kevin and looking at this new model. Very exciting for me because I've been talking about it for years. As Kevin mentioned, out west, they have had behavioral health services built into 911 systems for a very long time. And so I'm really excited that we're finally getting there. And I also want to say that they also have a really hard job at the call center. We all have hard jobs, but I have graciously been able to sit and listen to what it's like to be a 911 dispatcher. And though we can appreciate it, accepting our own behavioral health calls directly into our call center, it is definitely at a different level. So they do have a hard job, and it's great that we're all working together because we all have different levels of challenges in what we do and what we face every day to service the community. Mobile crisis services, we actually cover 6 counties. We do cover Schenectady, Rensselaer, Saratoga, Warren, Washington, and Albany. We work really closely with law enforcement, but folks can call us directly, which is actually one of the things that we've been working really closely with, is as simple as talking with law enforcement, having patrolmen have magnets in their cars, have our brochures in their cars, and every time they end up at a call that somebody might need some type of mental health or behavioral health support, or even any housing or addiction, really anything that we can help provide support, they're handing out our phone number, even if they drive away from the call. That's how we kind of started, and now we've expanded all the way into the 911 system. We did have our first call today, so I'm really excited to be able to talk to that. The communication center was able to transfer their first call to us, and we were able to help that family out. We went out on site and were able to connect them to treatment and care coordination, and just really provide them the support while they were having that crisis. It actually was a little bit more of a domestic dispute between family members, but they were all very emotional, and so we were able to meet their needs right away, and police did not have to come on scene with us for that call, and that was really helpful for the family. And so we were excited to get that first call. But without the help of communications and the law enforcement, beyond having this new model, law enforcement are calling and saying to dispatch, as they're being dispatched to EDP calls, please have mobile crisis call to see if you can send a team. And we are trying to meet law enforcement out as much as we can. Pretty much, very rarely do we turn those calls away unless we're busy in all of our other counties as well. And we're meeting law enforcement right on scene, and we're assessing, obviously, if it's a situation where they need to stay on scene, they need to manage it, or if we actually can be the forefront of that call to provide that support to the person struggling through the crisis. And there are many times actually that when we go out with the law enforcement, that we're able to say to them, you can drive away, we can manage this at this point because we've determined it's not a safety to sell for others and it's not a safety issue for us. And then the officers are able to again respond to other needs of the county. And then we're able to provide that direct support to individuals that are having anywhere from, like Kevin said, a bad day to might be feeling like they're depressed and they might need some type of support. Sometimes it is folks that end up saying they're suicidal after the officers get on site. They may not have necessarily said that to 911. So it's great that we're able to be on site and be able to do some of those safety evaluations and safety plan with folks. So we're really excited to partner. We are Monday through Friday, 7 to 11, and on Saturday, 11 to 7. We're working towards going 24/7, and I can't say enough how excited and how happy I am the work that has been happening in Schenectady County. We kind of have set precedents for other counties to follow, and that's really exciting. And it's actually happening in Rensselaer County now and other counties. And so I'm just really happy that we can provide support not only to the individuals that are really needing our services, but really also focusing on the support that law enforcement need. They did not go to school to be social workers or to necessarily manage behavioral health calls. So they do a great job. It is probably a huge support to them for us to go on scene with them and manage what is our specialty. And we have been able to help de-escalate situations and also really manage situations that maybe could have become unsafe if we weren't able to be there to support the whole situation. Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. And I just want to reiterate it. This is a fairly new program, and the sheriff's office has referred, at least on 2 occasions, individuals to Northern Rivers with successful outcomes. So thank you, Jennifer, for your commitment and care to our community. The service you offer is a proven success. So thank you.
Thank you.
Accreditation. Accreditation is a progressive and contemporary way of helping police agencies evaluate and improve their overall performance. The purpose of accreditation is to enhance the effectiveness, efficiency, and professionalism of an agency while promoting training and public confidence in law. Created in 1989, the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, DCJS, intended to promote public confidence. It is a very big undertaking. We are currently in the process to achieve accreditation. There are 609 law enforcement agencies in the state, with only 160 law enforcement agencies that are accredited. And that is our ultimate goal to achieve. Benefits of accreditation provides sound guidance for highly effective operation and management, enhances the reputation of the sheriff's office within the community, and will serve as a source of pride for our deputies. Implementation of policies, and can also lessen the vulnerability to civil suits and costly settlements. Although there are many benefits to accreditation, these are just a few. Our Police Explorer program, it's a law enforcement explorers post that we created in 2016. We now have approximately 30 young adults in the program. I myself and my twin brother were both law enforcement explorers before our law enforcement career. The Explorer Post is a hands-on program open to young men and women who have completed 8th grade through the age of 20 years old. If they're interested in a law enforcement career or a related field in the criminal justice system. There is no cost to these young men and women to join our program. We have our meetings at the Zone 5 Law Enforcement Academy, so that it's centrally located to give all young men and women in Schenectady County an opportunity to join the Explorer Post. It is free of charge. Once again, please visit our website, Schenectady Sheriff's Explorer Post 319, or at SchenectadySheriff.com for more information. Thank you. Accessibility. The Sheriff's Office has a desire and intent to become more accessible in the community. We've recently updated our social media, our webpage, and our voicemail. A high quality of service required to improve public trust and legitimacy. The Schenectady Sheriff's Office has an obligation to find new ways to understand and respond to the community needs. This concludes our formal presentation. We will now move to the question and answer period. I would like to reiterate that we would only like questions related to the patrol division. If you have any questions related to the correctional facility, please email Superintendent Ronald Walsh at ronald.walsh@SchenectadyCounty.com. Now I open the floor for questions. If we have questions that were written in. We had some nice comments on our YouTube feed, so thank you to those folks watching that sent those comments. We appreciate it very much. We'll just give it a second, see if any questions come in through YouTube. Nothing holding, correct? Okay. Stakeholders, please feel free if you have any questions, use the hand raise option. Richard Russo, go ahead.
Good evening. I just wanted to reach out as a community leader, as an elected, as a stakeholder. I just wanted to say thank you very much for this presentation tonight. It was illuminating. The faith-based community, the electeds, the administration, the counselors who are all online. I personally appreciate all the contribution. Sheriff D'Agostino and the entire leadership team, I think you've done an amazing job at leading our community through this kind of policing. And I think it was well said when Jamal had spoken, the fact that this is engagement and this is policy and this is administrative leadership that we've been doing in this county for a long time. So I want to thank each and every one of the members in the on the dais and presenting tonight for their very forward-looking and capable leadership. I had a question for Jamal, and that was, how many individuals do we have out in the community that are performing the outreach, that are performing the hospital response? I think you've got an incredible program. You certainly have got a tremendous amount of support from us within the leadership team, and we wonder, how do we continue to help you to be successful?
Thank you. Right now, we currently have 3 staff members who are our outreach workers and violence interrupters. We definitely would love to be able to expand. We we have never been able to reach the full potential of the program as far as implementation is concerned. There's a lot more tentacles, there's a lot more layers that goes with it. I'm definitely grateful and humbled by the support that the county ledge has continued from the very beginning to give us. The 3 staff that we have pretty much covers all of the responsibility. They're out there. The one thing that I also want to make known is these are men and women who work 24/7. You know, they're there on call at any time that the trigger is pulled. And this isn't just when there's an injury, even when there's just shell casings that identify that it's a confirmed shot fired. We're still called out, whether it's 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning, because we want to get ahead of it. If there's not a victim, we want to try to make sure we can prevent a victim. But to your question, there's 3 men, 2 men and a woman who works the program for us at this time.
And if you had the ability to future think it, how many people would you need to be even more impactful in the community?
To do what we would love to do, it would be at least a team of 6 even, but 7 is the full structure. Would be definitely a major help, because one of the things that we do differently from the SNUG program model, Chicago model, and this is definitely no slight to any other jurisdiction, is just saying how we do things different and more effective. We do a full wraparound. You know, the model calls for pretty much babysitting those who are high risk, knowing where they are, just keeping tabs on them, keeping their heads level. What we do is different. When we talk about case management, it's really case management. We want to make sure that if we're working with the individual, we're understanding what's happening in their household that makes them feel like they have to be in the streets, if that's their only resort. So we also looking to work with the significant other, whether that be a male or female, what childcare looks like. Are they accessible to social services? Those forms are very difficult sometimes to fill out. You have literacy rates, you have mental health issues. There's a lot of layers that goes to these individuals who are in the community. So the idea, I mean, by all means, if we can have an expanded team, it definitely gives us the ability to be more effective on a broader scope of the county.
Thank you, Jamal. I think you're doing an amazing job. It's clearly a comprehensive program, and it's making a difference in our community. So I know as one legislator among 15, I'm incredibly grateful for your presence and your commitment to our community well-being.
And I'm humbled and grateful for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Russo. Any other questions coming in? Okay, no more questions. I just want to thank Aaron Roberts, Jason LeCue, and Jeffrey Hall for all their technical assistance and preparation for assisting in delivering tonight's presentation. We could not have done it without you, so thank you very much. Thank you to all the presenters, the stakeholders, members of the public for your contributions. If there's nothing else, this will conclude the question and answer period. We thank everyone for your time and participation. And to close tonight's presentation, I would like to thank the sheriff and his command staff for their support and leadership. I invite Sheriff Dominic D'Agostino for his closing thoughts. Sheriff?
I just want to say thank you to all parties involved here for participating and helping us with this collaborative. I want to close by saying something that was said to me back in 1989 by a former police chief of ours who was reiterating what his police chief said to him probably in the 70s. He said to me as he hired me, he says, your community will tell you how they want to be policed. You need to listen. And that stuck with me, because when that was said to me, community policing, I don't even think was a concept yet that was formalized. But this was a man that was way ahead of his time in his thoughts on policing. And we in Rotterdam were very fortunate to have that kind of leadership and to have those kinds of impressions made upon us as very young officers. So it's always been our intent here to reiterate those concepts that were driven home on us by that same man. And I think we've done a good job with engaging the community. Can we do better? We can always do better. Are we going to be perfect in our delivery of services? Absolutely not, but we're always working to improve upon them. And that's why collaboratives such as these are so very, very important. I'll close by saying that we will be having our next meeting, Michael, Tuesday, correct? 5:30 it'll start. And we're hopeful that it'll be more of a dialogue of discussion and comments and questions as to what we are doing and where we are going based on what we've outlined thus far this evening. So again, I thank you all for participating as stakeholders. I thank the community that is tuned in on this for being part of this as well. And we're always available if you need anything. You know how to reach us, and we will always get back to you. And once again, thank you for all your help.